Good evening and Shabbat Shalom to the 12 tribes of Israel, scattered abroad, and believers in Yeshua Messiah. Welcome to Hidden Manna. Hi, guys. I'm Pastor Dave Stain, Senior Shepherd here at Living Manna. We're back. It's Friday night. We're hanging out. Going to have a conversation tonight. It's been a while since we've done it. So thank you to everybody that's joining us tonight. Thank you so much, whether you're watching it as we're doing or you're going to watch it later. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight, being part of our conversation. Been looking forward to this all day. And, of course, my dear brother, Max. There you are, man. Shalom, bro.
What's up? Shalom, buddy.
How you doing? It's been a hot minute, huh?
Oh, my goodness. It's crazy. I feel weird. I feel like I'm like it's our first time.
It's our first time in a while. In a while. It really has, man. It's been like we were chatting.
Like 5 weeks, right?
We were chatting. Just obviously we chat before we come on. And Brother Max was saying the last time we did this, by this time at night, it's dark. Mm-hmm. Except now it's light outside. So seasons are changing.
That's it, man. Crazy. I know it was before Passover. It was a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
But
it's been a minute. It's been a minute. Yeah, good to see you too, brother. Good to see you too. I've been looking forward to this all day. We got a neat conversation. Before we do that, just want to remind everybody, if you're hanging out with us for the first time and you're not subscribed, you can subscribe to us. We'd appreciate that. Give us a thumbs up. Make sure you mark that bell. This way you're notified each time we go live. If you enjoy the conversation, you can share it with somebody. Again, this is a conversation. We're just two brothers in the master trying to figure things out and understand what we can understand and have a conversation and talk about it. And if you're encouraged, if you learn something, if you hear something maybe you haven't heard before or confirm something, give us a shout out. We'd appreciate it. Like to know where you guys are watching from and all that kind of good stuff. All that commercial stuff.
It's like our brother Steve always says, Mucha, if it's something good you hear, that's Yah. If it's something that you don't like, that's us.
Yeah, that's me. That's Max.
That's me.
No, man, it's good to see you. It's really, really good to see you.
Buddy.
Oh, my goodness. Our world is upside down.
About to say lots of things.
I mean, as things are going on, I'm thinking, oh, man, if we had a manna tonight, man, the stuff that we could talk about.
Oh, I know, right?
Because the world is literally, spinning out of control. Just
on fire, right?
The world is on men's hearts. I'm telling you, men's hearts are failing them.
Oh yeah.
For at the fear of the things that are coming, and
yep.
Oh boy, it's bad.
And if you don't believe it, you can put on any YouTube show that's covering the stuff, and you read those live comments.
Yeah,
people are just flipping out, man.
Yeah, they are. And and I think. Many are freaking out without full understanding or even partial understanding of what's really going on. Mm-hmm. You're hearing all this, kind of church end time stuff, and a lot, 99% of it is just not accurate. But it scares you because it kind of looks like it's happening.
Yep.
But there's enough. Forget Bible prophecy. The world is literally teeter-tottering. And it's crazy. It really, really is crazy. And I mean, we could probably just do a manna on all of that kind of stuff. But oh my goodness, boy, talk about wars and rumors of wars.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
And then even right before we went on, you were just telling me about some other.
I think there were just some new attacks, and I'm assuming it was. I just saw the news feed just before we got on, so I really didn't look at it in detail. But some because I think Israel attacked back yesterday, I think it was, or maybe last night.
Yeah, last night. Yeah.
And then bases in Iraq, which are obviously Iranian owned. Mm-hmm. But oh my goodness, it's been nuts. It's crazy. If you don't look at what's going on and you don't realize, boy, the time is getting closer. Can't tell you exactly when, but the math doesn't lie. We're close.
Oh yeah. Yep.
We're close.
One of your favorite sayings, right?
Math math doesn't lie.
If you didn't catch PD's, what was that Sunday study you did the day before Passover?
What time is it?
That was awesome. Yeah, so check that out. It's on the LMC app for people if you haven't seen it. Take a look, check it out.
Yeah,
it's really good.
And even with that, I'm not trying to. I wasn't trying to pick a date or tell you it's exactly 2030 or 2031 or 2032 or 2033. it's more of a thing to say, hey, listen, math doesn't lie. So whether you pick 2030, 2031, 32, 33, 34, whatever it is, and you do the math backwards, it works out.
Yep.
And it's pretty crazy.
Couldn't name the things that make you say,
Yeah. I think only our generation would have figured that one out. Things that make you go, what? Yeah. So, no, but thank you for that plug. Yeah. If you guys want to check that out, you can. And we'll do updates to that and stuff as we see things coming. I tell you what, I've really sort of changed my perspective. I mean, we're doing also, in the time that we've been gone, I'm doing all sorts of studies, be it the calendar, be it end times, be it book of Ezekiel. I want to try to do something on the book of Ezekiel to lead us into the book of Revelation, because basically the book of Ezekiel is the book of Revelation. The parallels are just, you cannot ignore them. So I've been, all over the place over these weeks that we haven't gotten together, doing all sorts of studies on that and preparing stuff. And eventually we're going to, try to teach on them and try to understand the best we can. Because if there's one thing that I can say for sure about all of it, it's we're all wrong, or we've all been wrong.
All been wrong, yeah.
A lot. Most of the majority of the time. I mean, we know this, right? We know we were wrong. We wouldn't be here right now if we didn't know we were wrong. It's just I don't think we realize the extent to which we were wrong.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe the right way of saying it, which is part of, let's plug Wednesday night's Bible study, which we just started off this past Wednesday. I don't think we realize the point to which we have been deceived. Right, because everybody's, the whole sort of religious world today is waiting for some deceiver to come in the future, right? Some antichrist or some political leader or a red heifer or whatever it is that everybody's waiting for. By the way, I just heard today they're not going to do the red heifer thing.
Oh,
yeah, because I've been seeing it online. They're going to do it on the 22nd. They're going to do it on the 22nd. And then I saw something today. They're not going to do it. Could you imagine if they did that, man? You think things are bad now? You think they're bad now? Oh my goodness, that would just be pouring gasoline, on a blazing fire already. But yeah, man, we got a lot wrong, and the deception is strong. And I know we talked about it on Wednesday, but when it says that the enemy in Revelation 12 that he deceives the whole world, man, it means it. It means it. The deception is strong, which kind of leads us into our conversation for tonight. The title of our conversation tonight.
That was a good lead in there.
Yeah, it's called "Clothed in Righteousness." But the reason I say it's sort of a lead in is because. And you know this, I've bumped into this so many times in all the years as we've traveled in this journey of truth. When you start to read or you even question, you even ask about books that we call the Apocrypha or the extra biblical. I don't know why we say they're extra biblical, but that's the term we use for them. Books like Esdras and Enoch and Jubilees and Maccabees and that kind of stuff, and I don't know about you, but I have always had whenever this sort of conversations come up with people that I respected, that I was being taught from, the response was always, "Oh no, don't
do it.
Yeah, don't read those books. Those books are no good. They're not of God."
Yeah, it's almost like you're reading like Harry Potter to them,
Yeah,
but actually, that's okay.
The Harry Potter's okay. Just don't read Maccabees, right? The name that should not be spoken, I think, is a Harry Potter thing. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know about Harry Potter, but and then on top of that, not only was it that we were taught in Bible college and the different schoolings that you go to. Not only do you not read those books, but we were told that from the time of the writing of the book of Malachi, which is, 350, maybe 400 years before the Gospel of Matthew is written, before the time Messiah comes, that in that time frame, Abba was silent. This is what we're told. This is what we're told. Abba was silent. Father said, Father didn't have any other revelation, didn't teach us anything, didn't say anything until the Son comes, right? Until the story of the Gospels come, and then Father begins to speak to us. When in reality, all of those books they tell us not to look at were all written in that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And OMG, and I mean, oh my goodness, OMG, some of the information that is in those books sheds so much light on the books we do read. Mm-hmm. It gives you the background, it gives you the color, it gives you the context. And I'm not saying that every book, needs to be considered like the Torah, because I don't think anything's supposed to be considered like the Torah. Yeah. Save maybe Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the story of the Master, but the Torah is the Torah. But there's so much information, and what you begin to realize is when you do read those books, and you begin to sort of get the backstory, as you read through it, you come across verses and you're like, oh, wait a minute. That's what Shaul said.
That's what he was quoting. Yeah.
Or that's what Matthew said. Or that's what Messiah said. Or that's what Isaiah said. And all of a sudden you begin to realize, no, wait a second. They're quoting these books.
Yep.
It's not like, they said it and then the books were written before. They said. And you realize, because not only do we now have access to these books, but they had access to those books back then. Mm-hmm. So they knew the stories. They knew the background. They knew the information. And one case in point, I think it's out of one of the books of Abraham, when Saul speaks about, and we say this all the time. It's like we do offering. I don't know why, but it's just a verse that comes up in my offering, that our God, Abba, is the giver of the Father of lights, is the giver of every good and perfect gift. Mm-hmm. And in him there is no turning. Mm-hmm. And so Saul writes that. No, Saul's quoting the book of Abraham. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. He's quoting an Apocrypha book where it says exactly that thing. And what Abraham's saying is following the Maseroth, following the calendar. He's talking about the calendar, following the calendar, what he will do on the days and what he won't do on the days. And he says he is the father. So when he says he's the father of lights, he means the father of the sun, the moon, and the stars. And there is no turning, meaning they are eternal. They just keep doing their thing. They're a clock that just keeps going over and over and over and over and over. And you realize that's what Saul's quoting.
That's awesome.
And that's just one example of many examples. So, and I know, listen, it's 66 books. It's a lot to read, and it takes time to do it. If you're just sort of starting off in this walk, I would absolutely encourage you, read the books that are in front of you first. Mm-hmm. Learn them, go through them, study them.
Just
do it over.
Learn
the Torah, do it over and over and over. Learn the Gospels, do it over and over and over. And then at some point, it's okay to read some of the other ones. And all of a sudden, you'll start to see, information filled in. And but so here's the deception. What have we been told?
Yep.
Don't read those things.
Don't read it.
Don't read those things. And almost like it's a taboo. Right? It's like, no, don't do that. And you realize, the serpent, or the one which we'll talk about tonight, man, he's more powerful than I think we give him credit for.
Yep. We see that in everything, bro. Even in our anything that mainstream tells you, do the opposite. They've had studies trying to say that intermittent fasting can cause heart disease. Not eating a crappy diet doesn't cause it, but fasting and eating clean,
not all the sugar they put in everything. No, that's not going to do it. Not all the medication they're going to give you. No, that's not going to do it.
Exactly.
Listen, I know, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, even though a lot of conspiracy theorists are only conspiracy theorists for about 6 months until they're proven correct. Oh. But aside from that, man, I have a hard time believing anything at this point. Anything that comes out of mainstream media. I take everything with a huge grain of salt and much skepticism, because they have lied to us so many times over, and they continue to. So, and I mean, should we be surprised? No. And it's not just our nation, it's the world.
Oh yeah.
The world is against itself. There's our nation is, and what the Master says about a nation that's divided, and boy, are we divided. That nation is not going to remain. That nation's going to fall, and we're heading down that road. But anyway, so that's maybe a conversation for another time. Tonight we want to talk about clothing, being clothed in righteousness, And maybe to kick off our conversation tonight for everybody, if you guys have your Bibles, you can open up to the book of Matthew. If you don't, of course, we've got it up here on the screen. Let me put it so you and I are, I'm going to put it this way first, without you and I. I know people can still hear us. You guys can hear us. Give us a shout out. But hold on a second. Matthew chapter 22, really, really familiar verses. Man, we've gone over this. I can't tell you how many times. I want to read through verses 10 to like 14. And it's this is the wedding. This is the parable of the wedding, right? The kingdom of heaven is like let me do this for a second. The kingdom of heaven is like a father, a king, who wanted a wedding feast for his son, right? And so he goes to the parable. We know the parable. He sends out the call. They don't answer. They don't want the invitation. They reject it. And then eventually he's going to destroy the city that the people live on, and he's going to go out to the highways and byways and send the servants out and invite everybody from the highways and byways. So this is where we pick it up here in verse 10. Let me see if I can keep us on the screen and maybe just move this over a little bit for people to see. Yeah, and I'll just change it on the other screen. All right, so here it is. So this way people can still see us. Verse 10 says, "And those servants went out into the streets." This is after he destroys their city. Obviously, he's talking about Jerusalem from a historical point of view. "And those servants went out into the street corners and gathered all whom they found, both the wicked and the good. And the wedding hall was filled with guests." So the idea is that the father wants guests, right? He wants people at the wedding. "And when the king, the sovereign, came in to view the guest, he saw there," and here it is, guys. Pay attention to this. Verse 11 is really important. "He saw there a man who had not put on a wedding garment." All right. It says, how important is this idea of not having a wedding garment? Verse 12 says, "And he said to him, 'Friend, how did you come in here not having,'" I guess that's really the first question. How did you even get in here?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Of course, this is a parable, right? I don't, there's this, because if we're talking about,
there's no sneaking into
yeah, yeah, there's no back door, into the kingdom. For how did you not have a wedding garment? And he was speechless. It says, "Then the king said to the servants, 'Bind him hand and foot, take him away, and throw him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.'" You cannot get to the wedding feast without a particular clothing, without a wedding garment. And the response here, again, this is a parable, but we need to put this parable into context of because he's telling the story of resurrection. He's telling the story of being in front of being in front of Abba, being at the wedding feast, and those who are not clothed, bind them hand and foot, take them away, and throw them into outer darkness, where there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And we quote this all the time, and I still don't think we really understand the magnitude of what this is saying, that it is not the many that we see. It's a small number. It'll be a multitude out of all the ages, but it's a small number. Oh, yeah. For many are called to the wedding, but few are chosen and come in a wedding garment. Or, let's say it this way, are clothed with righteousness. Yep. Right? So that's sort of, guys, where we're going to kick off for tonight. And let me just put this up here for a second. I want to get to the other verse. I know the screen's going to be a little bit different. Bear with me. I'm going to try to make this work. So we got some information from the book called The Apocalypse of Moses. It also has another name.
The Life of Adam and Eve.
The Life of Adam and Eve. And if you guys, if you haven't yet, if you don't have an Apocrypha book, you can order it online. You go to Amazon. There's so many different ones out there, the versions and stuff. So you can get it. You can read it. It's a neat. In fact, all the books are really, really incredible if you have time to do it. Mm-hmm. But this is really intriguing because this book really sort of colors and answers some questions that I know everybody has. After a while, we all ask these questions. How did this happen, right? If it's just Adam and Eve, how is there, who does Cain marry? right? And you have all those questions. And the fact of the matter is, we're not the first ones to have those questions. Other people did, and there's some answers for it too.
Yeah. Book of Jubilees gives a lot of that too. So you can,
Yeah, and I've been doing the whole thing with the calendar, and man, the Book of Jubilees is important. The Book of Enoch is important. Obviously, the Torah is important. You really need all of them to start to put the puzzle together. And you know what? I think that's another thing. I think Abba almost purposefully made it in such a way that it's like a puzzle for us that you have to search, and and if you're really diligent and you really want to know, your search will bear fruit. If and you know what the sad thing is, most people really don't want to know. If you look online, like all the Bible stuff that's online, all the teachings and stuff, the ones that really have lots of people watching, where you're going to get 10,000 views or whatever, they're about 7-8 minutes, maybe tops 10 minutes, because you know what, in our culture, even in the religious culture, if I can get the information in 10 minutes, and then we're just going to click on to the next thing. It's that TikTok thing. Let's just with the finger,
mindset.
with the finger.
30 seconds.
Yep, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and if it's more than that, I'm like, I don't have the time for that, and we think that we can learn about the Creator, the God of heaven and earth, the one who created heaven and earth, the one who provides. We think we can learn about him in little 5-minute slots, 10-minute slots.
Fast food gospel.
Yeah, fast food gospel, I guess you could say. It doesn't work that way. It just does. You got to take time. And I know, sometimes you do an hour study, an hour and a half study. You're like, man, who has an hour and a half in their week to do that? If this is important to you, you'll find that hour.
Yeah.
You'll find that hour and a half. And actually, you know what I've kind of noticed with people that really do start to understand and put the puzzle together, they spend a lot more than an hour and a half. They spend a lot more than that because they're hungry. And I think this is where that parable, when the master does the teaching on the talents, the one who has one has that taken away, but the one who started off with what was it, 5, gained 5 more. The one who had 10 gains 10 more. I think I know he's talking about knowledge, but I think he's talking about those people who are willing to pursue. Yep. And some of this is not easy. Some of this takes some real thinking.
Yeah.
We like to think religion is easy, or understanding Abba is easy. It is in a sense, but it's also deep. It's also deep.
And I think we've gotten that whole perspective, being in where we came from, just believe what he says up there. You don't have to read for yourself.
Yep.
And then we realize that's not how it works. It's good to learn from a good shepherd, but we also need to have our time and understand. We need to understand,
No doubt. All right. So we want to talk about righteousness, about being clothed in righteousness. So obviously in the parable, so this is Messiah, obviously way past Moses, talking about future, what's going to happen in the future, that there is no way to approach Father without the wedding garment. So what are the wedding garments, I guess, is probably the first question that you should ask. What does it mean? So in the parable, what is he equating the wedding garments to? And I think, what is it, Revelation 19?
Yeah, verse 8, 19:8.
That's probably one of the best, not the only, but a good one to go to sort of answer that question, so we understand the context of what it means to be clothed in righteousness. So it's Revelation 19 and verse 7. And again, this is resurrection. So this is really sort of the same thing Matthew 22 is talking about, the wedding feast, because it's resurrection. He goes out and he gathers the good and the bad. Well, here it is, Revelation 19. So it's, let us be glad and rejoice and give him praise, for here it is. The marriage of the Lamb has come, right? Exactly what Matthew 22, what we just read about, bearing the proper clothing. For the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife prepared herself. And to her it was given to be dressed in fine linen, clean and bright, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the set apart ones.
Amen.
So I know we're reading it as we're reading here, we're reading it as sort of literal clothing. He's talking about being fine and white and linen, and I guess that's all an analogy to the priesthood and to the clothing of the priests and all that they do. But I think, this is just me, this is my personal sort of gut feeling on all of this. I think that that this is it's beyond clothing as you and I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking necessarily about white robes.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about the wedding robes are more than just wedding robes. It's something else. But what it does tell us here is that thing represents the righteousness, the rights, and I think there's a difference between right standing and righteousness, even though the same word is used for it. Because I think right standing sort of implies,
right before Father.
Yeah, you've been forgiven, right? What you had done wrong, what you had done which was unrighteous, has been forgiven. You're now in right standing with Him.
Yeah, I think that's why the verse says, "Now in Messiah we can boldly go to the throne of grace." Right.
So
No.
if we were not in right standing with Him because of the things we did, and now we are in right standing with Him, forgiven for the things we did, the logical conclusion is then we now need to do the things that He asked us to do, so that we don't again wind up in clothing that is unrighteous.
Mm-hmm.
So what is righteousness then? Well, I mean, we can go all the way back to Deuteronomy, because that's really where it starts. It tells us in chapter 4 what righteousness is, the actions we do, the thing that obeying His instruction, doing those things He's called us to do, being obedient to those things. But the story's much bigger than that, because we look at it as just actions, and it is. But I think our actions, that what we do here now, is going to affect what it is that we will have, what it is we will be on that day of resurrection. And I think maybe to sort of give you another verse that complements this, because you hear it all the time. You can't take stuff with you, right? Once you go, that's it. You die, that's it. You're gone. When in actuality, the Master says you can, right? Don't store your treasure where thief robs, where moth eats, right? Where rust corrodes, but store your treasure in heaven. Meaning that there are things we can do now that will have a direct effect, a real physical direct effect on this day. And I think the clothing is part of it.
Yeah, that's pretty wild too. I think that's why Shlomo even says there's no benefit for us to be in the grave, because what we do now builds up for our future, eternal. So if we're dead in the grave, that's it.
And the interest. So if that being true, then what we do now counts. It means something.
Yep.
And I guess maybe if you want to think about it, what we're doing now, if we learn to walk in righteousness, which is again Deuteronomy 4, do these things. This is what it means to walk in righteousness.
Yep.
I guess you could kind of say we are putting together our wedding garment. And like it says here, one more time, let us be glad and rejoice and give Him praise, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and His wife prepared herself.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that the wife made herself, forgave herself. She can't forgive herself. That's by Abba's grace through through faith. But she prepared herself. The actions that we take, the things that we do, the obedience to Abba's instruction is in fact our righteousness. Disobedience to them is unrighteousness, but it's bigger than that. It's definitely bigger than that.
That's I'm sorry to cut you off. That's Romans, right? We're a slave to the one righteousness that leads to life, and
it's
obedience
everywhere.
that leads to life, righteousness, and
it's absolutely everywhere. So everything, as we said before, everything Saul says in the book of Romans, the concepts of putting on righteousness, what we're reading here in Revelation. That she adorned herself with a robe. What we're reading in we just read in Matthew 22, she put on the wedding garment. All of that has a connection to something so much bigger that most of us don't read and don't realize, and yet the book is there. Yep. The book is there. And of course, we're talking about the book of the Apocalypse of Moses.
And no doubt that we would have Shaul, right, the most learned one in the Torah and in these books, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, they had the books.
Yep.
They had the books. So if they had the books and the books gave them these insights and these knowledge, of course he's going to use it. Of course. And you're going to see that you're going to see where this comes from, where this concept of this clothing quite literally comes from, or at least is mentioned in such a way that you can make the connection and say, okay, now I know why they're using the analogy of righteousness like clothing. Now I understand why the bride, she's in wedding garments, pure and white and fine. Now I see where that comes from, because believe it or not, where does all this come from? The Torah, right? But some of the coloring of the description comes out of the book of some of the Apocrypha, in this particular case, the Apocalypse of Moses. This is we're going to pop this up so you guys can see it with us, because I'm sure most people don't really have the book of Moses. Now, it doesn't have we're not on here with it, because I don't want us to. Actually, you know what? I might be able to do it. Let's see if I can do it this way with you and I still on the screen. I think I can do that, but this is going to be a little bit smaller. Yeah, we can do that. I am getting old because my eyes, looking at those letters.
Hey, don't laugh. That's why I got my glasses on today.
I'm like, oh my goodness.
My Apocrypha is like small letters, man.
I need letters like this big now. All right, so this is the Apocalypse of Moses, and the chapters are really, really small. Yeah. This is chapter 19. All right, so here's chapter 20. Here's chapter 19. Why don't you go ahead and give us a little intro into?
Oh yeah,
I don't want to read. I don't want to read all of it because it's. But go ahead and give us some intro to it.
It's basically Eve lamenting. She's speaking to her son Seth and her children, and telling them basically how they screwed up in the garden, And I was going to read from this point, but just for time's sake, PD said I can just go over this real fast. So we all know, the serpent, right?
Well, what chapter is that? That's like 15, 16?
Chapter 16, yeah.
Yeah, do you have it where you can read it?
Yeah, I can read it.
Yeah, I'll put it up here. You guys can follow us. I'll highlight it, because this is really interesting. Yep. If I can highlight it. There we go. Go ahead, brother. Yeah.
So it says, and the devil spoke to the serpent, saying, rise up, come to me, and I will tell you a word whereby you may have profit. And he arose and came to him, and the devil said to him, I hear that you are wiser than all the beasts, and I have come to counsel you. Why do you eat of Adam's tares, and not of paradise? Rise up, and we will cause him to be cast out of paradise, even as we were cast out through him. The serpent said to him, I fear lest Yah be angry with me. The devil said to him, do not fear, only be my vessel, and I will speak through your mouth words to deceive him. Wow. That's crazy.
Wow. The implications of that, are huge.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've always looked at it when you read it in Genesis that the serpent is the devil.
Yep.
And certainly he gets that title later on, I think, because of what he did here.
Yep.
But when you read this, all of a sudden the coloring is now, oh, wait a minute. The serpent was a vessel for Satan.
Because when you try to break it down, you always get confused. Well, where was he cast down? Where was he? So now it makes sense that the actual serpent is the one who now has to crawl on his belly. Right.
Not the devil, not Satan.
Yep.
But then that opens up other lines of thinking, because if this is true, if this relationship is true, that it is the serpent that uses another vessel, and when that vessel speaks, it is speaking on behalf of the serpent, on behalf of the devil. Then it makes sense later on when you hear Messiah referring to the priests, the Sadducees, the scribes, who he says do not know Abba, do not understand the commandments, do not know who he is. They do not know Moses, nor, he says, are you children of Abraham, you're children of the serpent. He says you are serpents and you are vipers.
Yep. Isn't that crazy?
And he's making the same analogy here that you're
his vessel.
You're his vessel, right?
That's good. That's good. Yep.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Same way he used the snake, he's using you.
You're actually his vessel, and he's speaking through you. And you're, excuse my French, but you're a useful idiot. And you're saying what he wants to say. And of course, it's the same now. There's serpents all over the place. Still serpents doing the same thing that this serpent did, being used of the one who is really trying to throw a monkey wrench in the whole thing. What a neat analogy, huh?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
What a neat analogy. All right, so
and then as we go through it, Eve and the devil, or they make an agreement, you know, and then he says, well, you have to get your husband involved, and she swears an oath to him, and then this is where we take it from here.
Which, now let's think about that a second, because she was supposed to, you're supposed to swear an oath. If we make an oath, we make an oath to Abba. Hey, that's a binding thing. But then you realize why the master comes and says, listen, just let your yes be yes.
Yep.
And you know, no, don't swear an oath. And he's not contradicting Moses, because you can still swear an oath by Abba. But if you swear an oath, because that's exactly what she does. I think as we read it, he has, where is it? I think it's chapter 19.
Yep. Yeah, 19. And they open to him.
Yeah,
right
go
before
ahead
that,
and read it.
It's so funny. Right before that, in 18, is when he says, I opened to him, and he walked a little, and he turned to me, and I had changed my mind, and I will not give thee to eat until you swear to me to also give thy husband. And I said, what sort of oath shall I swear to you or thee? Yet what I know, I say to thee, by thy throne of the master and by the cherubim of the tree of life, I will give also to my husband to eat. And when he had received the oath from me, he went and poured upon the fruit the poison of wickedness, which is lust, and the root beginning of every sin. And he bent the branch on the earth, and I took of the first and ate.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow. So now it makes a little bit more sense why you hear the master saying, don't swear an oath. Obviously, marriage is an oath.
Yep.
Marriage is something that you do swear to in Abba, and then you realize how bad it is every time that, you know, it goes bad in our culture. But here's just so not only did I mean, if this is the information that Saul knew and Messiah knows, and because they've read these books, they know this story. If this is the information that's been passed down, you know, throughout the ages and finally written down in a book, because people say, well, it wasn't written at the time of Moses. All right, I get that, but Moses wrote about the creation of the world, and that didn't happen when the creation of the world happened. Right? It happened much later. He wrote about Abraham. Well, he didn't write it when Abraham wrote it. He wrote about it much later. And, you know, so can Abba, you know, take a prophet and speak to them and give them information and show them this is what happened? Yeah. I mean, if he did it to one, why not? So long as what they are saying is still in line with what's been revealed in Father's Torah. And as I read this so far, just in the couple of verses we've read, right? If we're doing the Deuteronomy 13 test on Wednesday night, does anything we've read contradict, add to, change the story in some way from the book of Genesis? No. Colors it, makes it a little bit more understandable, gives you a couple
fills in some gaps,
fills in some gaps, gives you like an aha moment, things that make you go, right? gives you that moment.
CNC Music Factory moment.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Did CNC Music Factory do that?
I can see the guy dancing in the video now. Oh, great.
Oh, that's funny. All right, so let's continue on. So that's chapter 19.
That was
so
19.
You can see these chapters are really small, guys. Really easy reading. So here's chapter 20. And don't forget the apostles. They had access to all this stuff. So here's chapter 20. Go ahead, brother, and read chapter 20. I'm just going to highlight it.
Okay, I'll read it from the screen. And in that very hour, my eyes were opened, and forthwith I knew that I was bare of the righteousness.
Wow.
Yeah. So not just, we read in regular Genesis, and her first thing was, I was naked, right?
Yeah.
But what is she stripped of? Right?
So, I mean, go ahead, read on, and then we'll comment.
Yeah. So I knew that I was bare of the righteousness with which I had been clothed upon, and I wept and said to him, why hast thou done this to me, that thou hast deprived me of the glory that which I was clothed? But I wept also about the oath which I had sworn. But he descended from the tree and vanished. And I began to seek in my nakedness, in my part, for leaves to hide my shame. But I found none. For as soon as I had eaten, the leaves showered down from all the trees in my part, except the fig tree only. But I took leaves from it and made for myself a girdle, and it was from the very same plant of which I had eaten.
Oh, wait a second.
Yep.
Does everybody realize what was just said?
Yep.
We just got a whole bunch of insight in here. Again, accuracy of it, but does any of this contradict what Moses wrote? So far, no. But here, as a matter of fact, it complements it tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
So now we know why they were, because again, and I've heard preachers say this in the past, their whatever it was that was on them, the glory was lost. But so where'd you get that from?
Mm-hmm.
Here.
Yep.
And it's not just us; the prophets say the same thing.
Yeah.
Isaiah says the same thing. Jeremiah says the same thing. Saul says the same thing. Messiah said the same thing in the parable of the wedding feast. Mm-hmm. He's saying the same thing.
Yeah,
so
the writing Psalms, yeah.
Is this information that is different, adds to or takes away from the instruction? No, it complements the instruction and gives us tremendous insight. So the thing is, whatever she looked like, whatever it really was that they were clothed with, and I mean, just for argument's sake, because you use the word glory, let's just say light for a second, right? Clothed with a clothing of light, wow. and imagine for, and again, I'm not trying to add, I'm trying to spitball here. Imagine that we glowed. I mean, glowed. Where, like,
Moses, right?
So does it take away from Moses?
Yeah. Does it seem far-fetched?
Does it seem far-fetched? When Mashiach comes back, he's coming back like Moses coming down from the mountain, glowing with the Torah in his hands. So, so how different, how upsetting would it be to go from that to this?
Yep. Talk about a bad day at work or something, right? Yeah. It's had the biggest demotion you can think of, right?
You go from that to this, and you're looking at yourself in the mirror naked.
Yep.
And you're like, not that they had a mirror, but you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And she says, I wept. I wept. Yeah, you think? And you know what's interesting? Because this says that all the other trees to which her part of the garden that she guarded, all the other trees drop their leaves.
Yeah.
They all start dying.
Yeah, that's it.
They all start dying instantly, except the tree that she ate from. And of course, everybody blames the apple, right?
Yeah. It's like when Yeshua cursed the fig tree.
All right, we'll get there. Yeah. So if this is given, so does it make sense? Does this take away from the story of Moses? No, because you go back to the story of Moses, and it says that they sewed what kind of leaves together to clothe themselves. Because obviously she goes to her husband after this.
Yep. Yeah.
And he could you imagine him when he saw her in this condition?
Yeah. And I got a kick out of it because I had a hypothesis a while ago for that, right? Because when you read it, it says, what they grab? Fig tree, and come on, let's all, now we eliminate the first part. We didn't know this part, reading it now, but just the fact that now you're naked and you're going to grab the first thing you see, right? To try to And now if she's eating from the fig tree, it was right there, right in front of her. So it just made sense.
So they take fig leaves, and they use the fig leaves to come before Abba with, and of course, the fig leaves are not even close to whatever it was that they were wearing beforehand.
Oh yeah.
And so Abba has to clothe them with something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that something else is righteousness that comes through sacrifice.
Yep.
It's not exactly the same.
Mm-mm.
It's a temporary fix.
Yeah, I'd say it's a temporary fix, yeah.
Right? It's a temporary thing. And that righteousness we now learn when you read the parable in Matthew 22 and the Revelation, we have to prepare ourselves in it. Mm-hmm. We're forgiven. Now we have to clothe ourselves in it and walk in it. And even that's temporary, because it's not until resurrection that we are clothed again. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping, I'm thinking, I'm assuming that the clothing it's talking about in Revelation 7 or Revelation 19 and Revelation 7 is the clothing that Eve had, and the clothing that we are to be. If Abba's, about weights and measures, what was lost, it has to be restored, right?
Yeah.
Because and isn't that what Peter says in Acts chapter 3, talking about how he's a prophet like Moses until the time of restoration comes?
Yep. Yep.
Right? He's to be taken away until the time of restoration. A restoration of what? Restoration back to the way we were clothed before. And many are called to it, but only few. Yep. Only few are going to really pursue this thing and really begin to walk in righteousness and try to understand and try to learn and try to pursue and gain talents on what they understand and gain more talents and so forth and so on. Wow. This does not contradict the story from Genesis to Revelation. Yep. It enhances the story.
Yeah. It gets pretty, the next two chapters are pretty wild too. But speaking of equal weights and measures, I was telling you before in Jubilees, speaking of the garden, it says that when Cain killed Abel, we know he killed him with the stone, right? So later on, it says that Yah deals in equal weights and measures in righteousness. And it happened to be that when he died, it says that his house made of stone fell on him, and then a stone killed him. And it said that Yah is the Elohim of righteousness, a righteous judgment.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Again, is that out of context? No. If you know the Torah, yep, that's in context. That's equal weights and measures. Mm-hmm. That's reaping what you have sown. Yep. So the fig tree, because you said this before. You this was, I don't know, months ago. You were like, man, I wonder if it was the fig that they were, because everybody blames the apple, right? The apple.
Yeah.
I've heard people say maybe the pomegranate, right? Because the priests wear the pomegranate.
Mm-hmm. In the garden, in the temple.
And there's no doubt that the apple today is definitely a window into unrighteousness. And I'm talking about the tablet and the phone and all the rest of that.
Yep.
But here we're finding out, no, it was the fig tree. Mm-hmm. So let's think about this for a second. The first Adam and Eve are cursed by a fig tree. Mm-hmm. We then learn and of course they try to cover themselves with that. We then learn as we go through the story that Abba tells us, cursed is the man who dies upon a tree. Well, did Adam die upon a tree? Yes. Yeah. Yes, he did. And so did Eve. Mm-hmm. They died by eating of that fruit of that tree. He may not have been nailed to the thing, but contextually, did he die on the tree? The day you eat of it, you will die. And all the other leaves start to fall off. Death comes. Mm-hmm. Death. And think about it. That's a symbol of death entering the world. All the leaves start falling off. So,
and in case some people are saying, well, how did he die that day? In the book of Jubilees, it explains that a day is 1,000 years, and he died like 70-something years before he hit 1,000.
Yeah.
So he literally died on day one.
On that millennial day, but also that absolute day, death entered. Right? She tells us all the leaves. So in the seasons, how do we know winter's coming? All the leaves die. It's telling us the story of the garden. It's telling us the story of this whole thing. All the leaves die. It's a symbol of the curse. So cursed is the man who gets hung on a tree. This is Deuteronomy that tells us this. Moses tells us this, right? So fast forward, Messiah comes, and before the Passover, passes the fig tree that doesn't have any fruit on it. Wait, what was the problem to begin with? A tree that had fruit on it that they ate from, and now here's the second Adam who finds a tree that doesn't have fruit on it, and what does he do? He curses it. And I know a lot of commentaries, and I thought this for a while myself, a lot of commentaries equate that with the house of Israel. And he's going to curse the house of Israel as well. But I think this is equal weights and measures. I think this is Father balancing out the scale. Because the second Adam is going to curse the tree that cursed them. That tree dies instantly, just like in the garden when the leaves fall.
But Paul quotes numerous times, right? Just like the first Adam, the second. There's always that equal weights and measures.
1 Corinthians maybe 15, I think it is, somewhere around there. So he curses the fig tree. Now this is man, I'm just spitballing here. I'm just thinking. I wonder if the tree that he cursed, because we know he carries the beam, right, to how he's going to be crucified. I wonder if the Romans used a dead tree to nail him to. Wow. And I wonder, I'm just spitballing, but I wonder if it was a fig tree. And cursed is the man who dies upon the fig tree.
Wow. Because
cursed was the man who died upon a fig tree. One died bringing death into the world. The other one died bringing life into the world. I can't prove it.
Yeah.
I can't prove it. But that to me, that would be equal weights and measures, right?
Yep.
That would be first Adam, second Adam. Isn't that crazy? I was talking to Matt and Anna about this a week or so ago. He's like, "Oh, wait a minute, man! Yeah, you think about that? That's crazy." And all of a sudden, we've got some verification, if you would, some clarification.
If I say clarification, yeah.
Clarification here in the story. Wow, so much insight, and of course this continues on throughout the gospel stories. Let's do this. Let's look at a couple of verses because believe it or not, we're running out of time. Oh my goodness!
I was trying to look up to see if Joshua, when he hung the 5 kings, what kind of trees they were.
I'm sure there's more references somewhere in there that we haven't thought of yet. We haven't figured out yet. But let's look at a couple of these. Here's Isaiah. Let's jump to Isaiah to show you that this is consistent. Throughout the book. I'm sorry, I went way past Isaiah.
That's what we're doing, right? Test all things.
Where did Isaiah? There's Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 61 and verses.
Start at 8. Start at verse 8. Yeah.
All right. Let me just.
There it is. He loves right ruling.
Just look at my phone here for a sec. All right, so Isaiah 61 verse 8. I'll read it for I, Yahweh, love right ruling. I hate robbery for a sending offering, and I shall give their reward in truth, and make an everlasting covenant with them. And their seed shall be known among the nations, and their offspring in the midst of the peoples. all who see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the seed Yah has blessed. I greatly rejoice in Yahweh. My being exults in my Elohim, for he has put garments of salvation. Now, here it says deliverance, same word. He has put garments of deliverance on me. He has covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decks himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorns herself with her jewels. Eve was the bride. Here is more bride and groom being ready for the wedding. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who wanted a wedding feast for his son. But you have to come in the wedding clothes. And what are they? The garments of salvation and the robe of righteousness.
This verse 11 speaks of Yeshua, right?
For as the earth brings forth its bud, as the garden causes the seed to shoot up, so all the Master Yahweh causes righteousness and praise to shoot up before all the nations. The shoot. The branch.
Yep,
the branch.
Yep.
I'm sorry, don't know what happened there. The shoot, to shoot up. The branch to come up. I'm sorry, I don't know why that's happening. So, yeah, before all the nations.
Yep.
So is this consistent? This restoring. So what restores to us the clothing of the bride and the bridegroom? The everlasting covenant does. The everlasting covenant does. What does the death of that animal that Abba put on Adam and Eve, or the animals that get slaughtered at the altar, the blood that gets, what are all those? Placeholders, teaching tools, shadows, types, to help us understand what the process is going to be. You know, the washing of the outside of the body. But now it's talking about the washing of your clothes. As a matter of fact, I think, what is it? Exodus 19, when Abba's going to appear before them on Mount Sinai. He tells them to mikvah.
3 days before, right?
On the third day, on the beginning of the third day, Abba's, speaks from the mountain, but they were supposed to mikvah and wash their clothes. You cannot appear before Abba in dirty clothes. You just can't. You just can't. Here's a couple of more we got.
I think Revelation 3:5.
Let's take a look at it. Revelation 3 and verse 5. And he who overcomes shall be dressed in white robes, and I shall by no means blot out his name from the book of life, but I shall confess his name before my Father and before his messengers or his angels. So do you want to have the white robes? Yes, but you have to prepare yourself now. Meaning, yes, we are in right standing because of the death of Messiah, because the blood of the everlasting covenant, but we have to walk in righteousness. Right. We've got to learn righteousness. We've learned unrighteousness for so long. It's a process learning righteousness. And so quite literally, if you think about it, we're preparing our wedding dress. By our actions, by our obedience, by what we're doing, we prepare our wedding dress. Wow. There's a couple of other verses. What else we got? Job 29. Let's look at 29 and make that our last one for today. Job chapter 29 and verse 14.
He's speaking about what he had, right? He's kind of lamenting in 13. You can start there.
The blessing of the perishing one would come upon me, and I made the widow's heart sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it robed me. Right ruling was my cloak and my turban. So what is the righteousness we are supposed to put on right now? Obedience to his instructions. All of them. Everyone that applies to us, that everyone you can do, you do. And everybody who tells you and teaches you to do that will be great in the kingdom. Everybody that tells you, no, you don't have to do it, cut out certain ones, then they'll be least in the kingdom. All of this connects. All of this connects.
Cloak and his turban. I like that.
His cloak and his turban. So when we read things like the spiritual armor, right? In Ephesians 6, put on the whole armor of Elohim. The breastplate of righteousness is keeping the commandments, is doing the instruction,
Yep.
right? The breastplate, the faith, the sword, all the rest of that stuff. Same concept,
Yep.
concept. And where does it all start? Right in Genesis, man. Right in
That's it.
Genesis. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, that was good. Had a good time, man. Good one for the first time back.
Yeah, good one for the first time back. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. I hope you enjoyed that. Man, that's good. Just all sorts of other doors are opening up in my mind of some other things about that. But man, the fig tree thing, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. That was good, man. I love it. And like I said, if you get your hands on one, Amazon sells them for like $20. You can get the Apocrypha. They have two different versions, 54 book and I think a 70 something. But it's worth the investment because as soon as you read it, like PD was saying, man, you're just like, I know that.
This is the 70 book. Hopefully that comes out good on the screen there. If you guys want to see it, you can get that right at Amazon.
And I got this one too.
All of it in there. You guys can get that. But again, read the first 66 books first, lots of times, over and over and over and over and over and over. Yep. And then when you go to some of the other books, instantly you'll be able to tell if it really is a book that is instructive, because you'll say, oh man, I know that. Yeah, okay, this makes sense. Now this is why this happens. You'll be able to test it, if you would. How do we test it? According to what Moses said.
Exactly.
Good. Good stuff, brother. Love you, man.
Conversation, buddy. Love you. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shalom, brother. Peace. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Some neat stuff, some little bit of hidden manna there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget to join us tomorrow morning at 10:45 for our morning service. Looking forward to it. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, give us a thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. Let me see. There it goes. Give us a thumbs up and hit that notification bell. Send us out to somebody if you enjoyed the conversation. In the meantime, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. And as you do enjoy the rest of your evening, have a good one. Shabbat shalom.